Hi everybody, Diana here at Heartfelt Creative. Welcome to another episode of Patches and Pieces Monday. I hope everyone's week is going well so far, like in the 12 hours that has been Monday so far. It's been rainy here today a little bit, kind of spitty rain, and we need rain apparently. We're quite below our norms. And so otherwise it's been a great day. Just, your normal Monday, got up, did the workout, trying to build the muscles, a little bit, just, doing it to stay healthy, which, is a good thing, I guess, right? And, but today for Patches and Pieces Monday, I'm kind of shaking it up a little bit, I guess, because we're not going to talk about traditional piecing. We're going to talk about piecing with these things. What are those things? Actually, what I'm going to piece with today is the Gemini Cutting System by Crafter's Companion. Now, I am not supported or anything by Crafter's Companion at all. I have had my Gemini die cutting machine for about, I think, like 3 years now. I got it before I got really sick and ended up in the hospital, which some of you know about. And what I loved about it then and what I love about it now is it makes your piecing super precise. If you have trouble with precision in your cutting and all, you won't if you use a system like this. Now, I know there are tons of die cutting systems out there, and I suspect that they all are equally as good. I just don't know. I used to have like the very, very original Sizzix cutting system, but that was more for tiny dies. And then I had an AccuCut Go baby. It wasn't quite big enough and the only thing with the AccuCut was all their dies are those big, thick bricks. And for me, that was a little bit of a problem because of storage. But with Gemini, you use basically these wire-framed cutting dies. Okay, so you don't have a lot to store, right? So I'll show you here. Let me pick this up from the ground because this is heavy. This is the Gemini. Oh, here we go. That's it. I'm not going to show you how to use it and all of that because if it's just you stick your plates in there and run them through to the other side. Pretty easy. Let me set this back over here. Yeah, that weighs a good 15 pounds. That if you drop that on your foot, you're going to the hospital. So then the AccuCut system or the Gemini system is built around a die system called Build-A-Block. Build-A-Block. And I love it. This big box here comes with 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 12-inch dies. So there's a ton. And it's this drawer system. So there's quarter square triangles, half square triangles, and squares in this set. And then they have an add-on set called Build-A-Block Plus. I know there are rectangles, I believe, in that system and some other things. But then what they also came out with, I think just last year or so, are these little mini sets of half square triangles, and I have the squares one too. And I got these because there are some of the same sizes, and now I can cut multiples in there. But so the system is super simple, like I said. When the system first came out, there was the dies that you used tended to warp badly because you get a lot of pressure with these die cutting machines. That's the impetus around that bending idea, is because when your dies go through is because there is a huge amount of pressure when those go through the machine. But just this last year, they came out with these thicker metal shims die set. And I've been using it to cut some pieces for today's demo. Holy moly, guys. This is a huge step up from what they started with, in my opinion. So if you're thinking about this system, or you have this system and you've had problems with it in the past, I highly recommend. Now, I'll be honest, a dear friend who I consider like a sister, she gifted me this set of shims because I wasn't able to find them during COVID here in the US. I think I bought my set. Did I buy it directly from them? No, I bought my set through the home shopping channel, believe it or not, HSN, yeah. Because that's where I was told to go to get it here in the US. So I guess they probably still, I mean, that's like the only thing I bought there. So, but I bet you they still sell them there. And I know you can go directly to crafterscompanion.com and they have to ship it from the UK. So it'll take a few weeks, but you know, I've done that before too. Anyway, that's enough about the product. What you do when you're putting through, you have your shims, your line up, and you put your fabric down. And I think you can do up to like 8 layers. I've done more in the past, but I think 8 is what they suggest. And then you put your, now you're going to start with a big square of fabric here. Let me grab a square so you can kind of see. So you start out with your square of fabric. However, I cut my fabric just slightly larger than the die. So this is the 6.5 inch half square triangle die. And so I cut mine, I try to look at it like a square and I cut it kind of down this way and just, I give myself like 1/2 inch around the edges. So there's not a lot of waste on that. But then you layer up your shim and your fabric and your dye and you run it through your machine and hey now you end up with your squares and your half squares cut. And I will tell you that new shim was amazing. The original shims never cut this well for me. So I was thrilled. So for today's, oh, and in the box, you get a book and it has a bunch of square patterns in it. And then I think if you go on their website, there's even more that you can do with it, more blocks. They have quilting patterns. I've been wanting to do this with you all for about 2 years now. I've wanted to do some videos with this Gemini system because I really do love it. I spend most of my time traditional piecing. That's what I do. But I really love using this Gemini when I can. It's fun. It's really precise. It's really fast. I've wanted to do this for a while, and I will now from time to time do some blocks with this system. So if you have Gemini, you're set to go. However, those of you saying, I don't have a Gemini system, I'm not buying a Gemini system, no problem. In the description below, I'm going to give you the cutting information to do this as traditional piecing too, because I don't want to leave anybody out. We're just here to piece our squares and have fun. So just for those of you who do have a Gemini system and want to give this a try yourself, I used the 6.5 inch half square triangle die and the 3.5 inch square die. Those are the only 2 I've had to use for this whole block today, because we're going to do I just chose a very simple block because I wanted to get the idea of how this goes. So I chose a very simple block, the Hourglass block. So that's what it looks like when it's done. So it basically is only 2 fabrics. So I have basically my dark and my light, and that's all I have. So what I like to do with this is once I get my pieces cut out, and it will tell you right here, and it gives you directions for, let's see, a 12 inch, an 8 inch, a 6 inch, and a 4 inch block. So you get multiple, like this block up here. Oh, that's the actual friendship star block. I didn't know that was in here. I do that block all the time. It has 3 different sizes in it. So you get multiple sizes so you can decide for yourself what size you want your overall block to be pieced. So what I do is I lay the book out next to me. I'm going to flip the camera now. There we go. And then I take my pieces and I make sure that I've pressed them. And I look at my setup in the book right here. And so I know that I've got 2 4 patches going on here. 2 4 patches. I know it's a little hard for you to see, but that's what's there. So I'm going to set these 4 patches up just like they show. There's one, and then I need another one that's kind of coming diagonal from the first. There we go. There's my other one. And now I need 2 half square triangles there. So I know I need this one to be like this, and this one to be like this. And then I didn't have more of this fabric. I wish I would have, but I chose this one of these London Blues fabric. Oh, that's kind of pretty. I like that. And then that one. So now I have my whole block laid out. And then I kind of look at it. Is this a block I can do in rows? Really on this one, it's kind of, it's got 2 small 4 patches and 2 half square triangles, but it really overall comes together as a 4-patch block. So I didn't do a preview block because I kind of wanted to just go through this whole thing with you today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew my 2 half square triangles first. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm just going to kind of lay those right there for a moment. I'm going to flip this over. And the nice thing about this system is they all have these engineered corners. So you're not going to get dog ears to clip off, and you're going to get, it just really helps give you that precise piecing. So I've got one set up. Now let me set up the other. And when I put these together, they're right sides together. Now with these, if you're going to piece traditionally, you're going to make these out of 2 large squares, and you'll make your half square triangles in the traditional method. All right, so I'm going to flip the camera. We're going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew these up really quickly. So the nice thing about this system is after it is cut out from the machine, you just start piecing. You don't have like extra cutting to do and trimming up to do. They just turn out so beautifully. Now, granted, I am sewing this on a bias there. That line is a bias, but as long as you're not stretching and pulling, it'll be fine. There's nothing to be worried about. So I'm setting that one up, and I'm just going to chain piece these together. There we go. Now I'll just put them apart and clip my strings off, my threads, and then we'll come back over and we will press these. So let's flip through our cameras. Hi, there's me. And here we're going to flip through this to the other one. All righty, I've got my little mat over here today. Actually, that little mat I always feel like I'm running out of space with it when I have to do this. So I'm going to bring the big one in. There we go. All righty, so I am going to take my precision piecing product pen, and I'm going to condition my seam. I'm actually going to set the seam. And I'm going to give you one tip about taking these out of the box. These are, they're not really sharp, but they are metal. And if you have fingernails like I do, get yourself a little flathead screwdriver to pop them out, because I now have like little chips in my fingernails, so I don't have to file my nails later from trying to dig them out with my finger. All right, so look at how beautiful that is already. The precision on these are just so lovely. So if you were doing this in the traditional method, you're going to have 2 large squares, a dark and a light, and they're going to be right sides together. You're going to draw your line, sew a 1/4 inch on each side, cut all of that sizing will be in the description, like I said. And I have on my let's see, is it still on my Facebook page? I did a whole worksheet on doing half square triangles. And so it's a free download, and I will make sure that that information is there. So if you have never done a traditional half square triangle, you'll be able to do that pretty easily. All righty. So there are my 2 squares done. Here are my 2 half square triangles done. That was easy peasy. Now I'm going to do my 2 4 patches, my 2 little 4 patches that I do with my 3.5 inch squares. So I have a dark and a light, and then a light and a dark. So let's flip these this way, and flip this one this way. And then I'm going to go ahead and set up my other one. So again, a dark and a light, and a dark and a light. Yeah, there we go. So I'll set these up, and I'm going to go chain piece all of these now. Okay, let's flip our camera again. So I will tell you that when I cut all of these out with the die system, I think I cut everything out in like 5 minutes. It was super duper quick. All righty, and here we go. I'm just going to chain piece these. And I am going to suggest that you press your fabric open to the dark. I'll show you what that means when we go back to the ironing board in case you've never done it. So working with the die cutting system, like I said, is not something I do all the time, but I really wanted to do a video with you all on it because I think this system is brilliant, to be honest. And if you were going to ask me, you know, my opinion on what system that you might want to invest in if you were going to, I would tell you to do the Crafter's Companion Gemini system. I just really think that this system is great. Now, like I said, granted, I have not used a lot of the others. Now we're going to press to the dark side. So my dark fabric is up, and that way, when I flip this open, you're not going to see the shadowing through there. With my white fabric, if I did it to the light side, you would definitely see the shadowing through there. So we're going to press to the dark side. So I'm going to set my seam, condition my seam, and press. Now this precision piecing product pen, I've talked about it before in lots of my videos. It just really gives you a super nice flat seam. I really like, whether you press your seams open or to the dark side, it really is great. All right, so those 2 are done, and now they will go together for the 4 patch. I love this fabric. I'm not sure whose fabric that is. I believe these light blue dots is a Kimberbell fabric. I think it's one of her basics. And if it's a basic, you should be able to get it. This blue that I had one 10 by 10 square of it. And I'm not sure, whoops, I need to do that to the dark. I'm not sure whose fabric that is because I've had it for a while. I try to tell you all the manufacturers of the fabrics when I can, but I honestly can't remember on this blue one, but I know this one is a Kimberbell. All right, so now I'm going to flip these over. And I did on one of my Good Gadget videos, I showed you all these double-headed pins, right? We used to use them in merchandising years and years and years, like 40 some years ago when I worked in merchandising. But Lori Holt brought these out. And because of the two heads, once you line up your seam, they keep that seam just locked right in place. It's not going anywhere. And I found it to be a little bit, I mean, I always use my Wonder Clips, always. But for my seams, I've kind of switched a little bit, to be honest, recently, to using when I need to, mainly when I need to be really serious about lining up a point. If I'm not that serious about it at the moment, because it's not going to make a big difference, I still always use my Wonder Clips because I love them. But that is going to keep, there's technically a pin on each, right on each side of that seam, and it is going to keep it locked in place until I remove it. All right, I'm going to flip the camera again, and we'll come back over to the sewing machine. So the demonstration of those is in one of my Good Gadget videos that you can find here on YouTube, and you will see it in the picture for the episode, so you don't have to dig too much to find it. All righty. Now we're going to so right when I get right to that pin, then sometimes I have to lift my foot a little because can't get in there to get that out. They come out really easily. I have always had problems getting pins out like this. I'm going to put my foot back down. I don't want it moving around on me. All right. See, I'm a lefty. This is just, there we go. It came right out. And now I'll just sew right over my seam, right off, and then I'm going to just chain piece these. So here we go with the second one. Just lining that up. Yeah. Come in just a little bit more. I know that some folks say it's okay to sew over your pins. I seriously do not recommend it under any circumstance. You are asking for disaster and medical bills and hospital visits and all kinds of stuff. So I really do not recommend ever under any circumstance sewing over your pins. I've been sewing a long, long time, and that was really made quite specific to me when I started sewing. Don't ever sew over your pins. That needle hits it. The least it'll do is break your needle, but it could break your machine, and it could break you. It could. I've had needles break before in sewing and pop up and hit right here. If I hadn't had glasses on, I'd be blind to this day. So please be careful. That's all I'm asking. All right. So here we are. We're going to now press open. Now, because we've got, let me press that seam a little bit, a 4-patch here, and a light in the dark and a light in the dark. There's really no pressing to the dark, as it were. So just that open. Oh, I really love that fabric. I wish I could remember who that was, and I'd go looking for more of it. And it looks really good with this Kimberbell one too. Now, see, look right here, folks. Using those pins, look at how precise that is. Right there, that point. I'm pretty chuffed with that, actually. I mean, you know, I usually can get my points pretty good, but that one is really kind of exceptional. And I've just found that locking them with those two-sided pins like that really, I've done far less picking out than I have in the past. All righty. All right, so now we're going to lay out our large 4 patch, which ends up being our total square. So there we go. I'm going to flip this one over, and I am going to just put a couple clips there. One, I don't really need clips here, but I'm going to tell you why I do this, because I don't know if it's because I'm a lefty or what, but I tend, when I fold things over in a square like this, I tend to forget from here to the sewing machine which one of these sides I was supposed to sew down. So now I know I'm sewing down that side. Now, in the end, there might be a little trim up to do on the total square, but so far everything has come together so easy peasy. I want to make sure that I did this first one. Okay, so there's that one. And oh yeah, no, see, I clipped those on the wrong side. So this is like that and like that. So I am sewing down this edge. See, I'm glad I checked that and reclipped it, because from the time I was telling you about clipping it to the time I actually clipped it, I was completely off on what side to sew on. I don't know why. I've always had that problem. All right, I'm going to flip the camera again to the sewing machine. We will chain piece these together. Now, if I had chosen to use one of the blocks that had a lot of the little half square triangles in it, you would really see how precise these are, the cutting is. But I think you can see it on this. This just came together super easy. I've not had any real problems getting any of my seams to match up or anything like that. And like I said, the cutting went really fast. All righty. Oops. Now we just have one more seam to do. We're going to go press these open, and we have one more seam to do to put these two, technically 2 rows together now, and we'll be done. And one more over, okay. Oops, let me set these. All right. Addition my seam. So now the way I've pieced this together, except for making the half square triangle, whoops, not over to there we go. The way I've pieced this, except for how I did the half square triangle, because with the Gemini, it makes the 2 triangle pieces for you. You could use the Gemini and use the biggest square and make just cut those squares out and make your half square triangle traditionally with a square. I mean, there's nothing says you can't, but they give you the half square triangle pieces so that you don't have to do it that way. However, if except for how I've done this half square triangle, because of the cutting system, there is nothing different about how I would piece this or sew this in a traditional manner. Okay. All righty. So now we've got 2 rows. There we go. And again, the only seam I really have to line up is that center one. So we're going to flip that over. I'm going to get myself one of my little magic pins. And we will line these up. That string. So I've got my pin on each side of that seam line. There we go. Now, because this is a little bit longer, I am going to put a clip here. And I'm going to put a clip here just to keep things straight. All righty. We'll go over to the sewing machine. This is our last seam. Now, I've chosen to do the size that should yield us a 12-inch square. But I think I could have done it in a 9-inch and a 6-inch. I would have to look again. I read those sizes off when we started, but I could have done this in other smaller sizes. The system is only made to make a 12-inch square at the maximum. However, if you were doing a square that needed to be 18 inches by cutting more pieces and just adding them on, you could make yourself a much larger block. This is just the basic of how to do this block with this system. But if I had made my blocks smaller and made more of them and added them together, I could have made a completely larger block, any size I wanted. So you're not limited with this system. All righty. Let's flip our cameras one more time. There we go. All righty. So this one, I'm just going to set it and forget it. And flip it. There we go. Gosh, turn it really nicely. I always kind of play with my seams a little bit before I press them because I like to do my initial press from the top to keep my fabric from puckering. Yeah, I do that slide thing and then I lift and press, but I always do that slide thing to make sure I'm getting it down. And I'm going to grab my tailor's clapper. This is my homemade one. I just had my other one, my good one, right in my hand. And now, of course, it has disappeared on me. How bizarre. Okay. All righty. So we'll get rid of that and put that away. I'm going to take this off because we're going to trim it up now. It needs it. Oh, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. Just dust, basically. I call that fabric dust because this is so precise. The only reason this side is off a little bit is because I had my fabric a little jury-rigged when I was cutting it and missed one of the corners, but that cleaned right up, so I'm not worried about it. And I always like to go through and clean up my square edges just to get that dust off of them, that little bit. All righty, and now we're done with our hourglass block. That's the name of this block, and there we go. So I'm going to flip my camera back around to me. Oops. Oops, no, why isn't it? Hang on. There we go. Weird. So here's our block in the end. And it turned out great. And it was so easy to do with the system. And yes, 12, 8, 6, and 4-inch information here. But if I wanted to make this block larger, I could adjust my sizes here and maybe do more of them. So instead of this being a 4-patch, maybe I make it a 3-patch or a 6-patch. Yeah. And then make the block bigger and then add more blocks together and make a larger piece. So you can always do that. You're not limited. But that is how easy it is to use at least the Gemini cutting system, which I really like. I hope you thought this was fun, because sometimes, we get tools and things like that. And, I have my good gadgets. This was a little beyond good gadgets. This is more of a system. So, and it kind of fits in with our patches and pieces doing our sewing. But I will put your information for what sizes to cut out in the description if you're going to do traditional piecing. But remember, if you have this system and you're going to do it 3.5-inch square, 6.5-inch half square triangle, you need 2 of these in the light color, 2 in the dark, and you need 4 of these in the light color and 4 of these in the dark. And that's all you have to cut. So it's pretty simple. And it's a simple block, but it's pretty. When you put these together, you can certainly get like diagonal lines and stuff through your quilt. So it would turn out nice. I hope you enjoyed it. Just a little bit of a change up on our traditional piecing. Next week, we'll be back to traditional piecing, but from time to time, I will pop in with another little something from the Gemini, using the Gemini system. Because I put together I've taken some old traditional blocks that they don't, talk about in their book. And I've designed them to be used with the Gemini system. So perhaps come fall, I'll just do a whole series of some of those traditional blocks using that cutting system. That way, if you have the cutting system, it'll be for you. I mean, if you don't have the cutting system, you can do the traditional blocks in the traditional way, right? But so maybe if I can fit that into the production schedule for the fall, I'll do that, because there are a lot of really beautiful traditional blocks that really work well for this. And if you're someone who has some problems with arthritis in your hands, or you've had carpal tunnel surgery like I have, having a system like that allows you to keep sewing. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep creating beautiful quilts and beautiful patchwork pieces of, other things, pillow cushions and table runners and all that kind of stuff. We want to keep doing that. But when cutting in the traditional way just makes our hands hurt, we don't get it done and it becomes frustrating, then we give it up. But when you have a system like this, you can keep going and keep enjoying. So, all righty, folks, have a great week. There will be a good gadgets this week. I don't know if you all saw, but yesterday I started a whole new series called Sew in Common Sunday. That video is here on YouTube. Watch that. It's a little bit longer video, but you'll see what it's all about. And don't forget, anything you make, go over to my Facebook page, Sew in Common, download your picture and let us all see it and let us all cheer you on and get inspired by what you're doing, okay? And if you like this video, if you like this kind of thing, please subscribe to my channel. I am only 15 people away from having 3,000 subscribers. I cannot believe it. So I'm thrilled that that many people would give any of their time to watch me quilt. I hope my grandma is looking down and thinks that that's a good thing, because I only know how to do this because of her. So, and click the little bell so that you can, I'm gonna sneeze. The cottonwoods are in bloom. Dave and I have both been sneezing all weekend. Click the little bell and you'll get notified whenever I load new content onto the channel, so that you're not always having to come back and look and try and find, is there something new? You'll just get a little notice that says there's something new. All right, bye everybody, have a great day, take care, go sew the world beautiful, bye now.